Fox has announced their next X-Men movie, which will be X-Men Dark Phoenix. The Dark Phoenix saga is probably the most popular X-Men story ever to come out of the comics. So it makes sense that they would do it. It was hinted at the last X-Men movie, X-Men Apocalypse. The weird thing about that is they've already done it in this same movie series. It's already been adapted to a movie. It was a major part of X-Men The Last Stand. The reason they can do it again, though, is that because the story since then has involved some time travel shenanigans that have essentially rendered the Last Stand in an alternate timeline. So the new timeline that they're using now is free for them to retell the story. X-Men The Last Stand was not very well received by audiences, so I guess they're looking at this as their chance to maybe do it better. I actually didn't mind The Last Stand all that much. Actually, I think out of the three original X-Men movies, I think that was probably the one I liked best. I think in part because it was starting to relax a little bit on the more fantastic elements, the more extraordinary elements. In the early 2000s, it seemed like there was this kind of feeling in Hollywood that if you're going to tell a story about something like from a comic book or sci-fi story, that you couldn't have various different extraordinary elements together. Is basically, if there was one extraordinary element to your story, that had to be the only one. If you were telling a story about genetic mutations causing superpowers in humans, everything had to come from that genetic mutation. You couldn't have things like time travel or space aliens or things like that in addition to that. Now, if you were doing a movie just about aliens, you could do it about aliens, but it just had to be just about aliens. And they would try to keep the I think it would try to make it actually a little less spectacular, also in addition to keeping it rounded to one extraordinary element, and they would try to keep it less spectacular. The idea is I think they thought it had to be close to reality or people wouldn't take it seriously. I think that's changed. I think people now are starting to look at these movies that in the same way they looked at the comics, that they can be fun, they can have these layers of extraordinary things on top of each other. And I think we'll end up seeing a much different Phoenix saga in the next movie, because I think they'll embrace some of those more comic booky, more extraordinary elements in it. They were just barely starting to do that with The Last Stand, so they couldn't really go all the way. In The Last Stand, the Phoenix was an alternate personality that had been suppressed in Jean Grey, and that's all it was. And the extraordinary power it had was simply because she had been born with extraordinary power, and it was being suppressed. I think they might go more with the way the Phoenix Force is treated in the comics with the new movie. They may reveal that, well, in actuality, Jean Grey had bonded with this cosmic entity called the Phoenix Force without her knowledge. And then that's where all this extraordinary power comes from. And they don't have to go into space as they did in the comics, but they can. I think they would be willing maybe this time to talk about beings from alternate realms of existence and things like that, beings that are non-corporeal, that operate on a higher plane, that have different levels of power. Because at this point in the X-Men movies, they've had time travel. They've had the whole world practically blown up by Apocalypse. They've had these really extraordinary things, and audiences are now embracing it, because I think they realize that it's not whether you have these extraordinary elements, but it's how you deal with them that makes it a more believable, more enjoyable story. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this new Dark Phoenix movie. I don't know which cast members will be returning. I hear that McAvoy and Fassbender and Jennifer Lawrence, their contracts were up with the last movie, and sorry for the jump cut there. I switched locations as it was becoming noisy. I tried to find a quieter location. Hopefully this will be quiet enough. Anyway, I was talking about the returning cast, which we don't know, because the contracts were up for Fassbender and McAvoy and Jennifer Lawrence with the last movie. At least that's what I heard. I think it's pretty likely that they'll find a way to bring back McAvoy and Fassbender. They'll make sure that they sign on for a new contract. I don't think that's going to be much of a problem. When I hear Jennifer Lawrence didn't want to do the last X-Men movie, that she was only doing it because she was contractually obligated to do it, so I think most likely she's not going to be in it. Mystique, maybe. I wouldn't put it past them to recast her. It wouldn't be the first time. And she's a shapeshifter, so she can look like anyone she wants, so you kind of got a golden opportunity to recast this character anytime you want. I think Mystique will probably be in it. She would at least have to have a mention if she's not in it, but I think she probably will be. Maybe a smaller part, but I think she will be in it because of where they left her in the last movie. But if they continue with the pattern they've started, they'll set this one 10 years after the last one, which would put it in the 90s. And a lot can happen in 10 years, so it could be that they don't use Mystique and they just make a mention of what happened to her. I'm enjoying the new X-Men movies, I think, more than the old ones. I think they've, again, because they are more free to do more extraordinary, more comic booky things now. And I'm as good as like some of the old cast was, like Patrick Stewart, and of course Hugh Jackman. I like the new cast. I like what they've done with it, and I'd like the focus being kind of always on the Magneto and Xavier relationship, the relationship they have with each other, because I think they've found some real heart in that, which has kind of become a central theme to the X-Men series, and I've been enjoying that. So I look forward to it.